We had on our site asking for requests from some of our viewers about what they were more interested in watching, and a number wanted a more in-depth explanation of the cards, sort of one at a time, but we will be referencing the other side of each card. We're going to call this the Major Arcana um, 2x2. So we're going to be looking at each one of the cards, and that'll be the 22 major arcana. And we'll also be glancing at their alter ego, so to speak. We're going to start today with the Magician. The Magician card sits in the Sephira of Keter. Keter is at the top of the Tree of Life, also the Tree of Knowledge. It might be called the Godhead. The Magician card is a person. It's an asexual person. At this level, there have been no polarities established yet. That happens with the High Priestess. The Magician is an asexual person who wears a white tunic with a snake-like belt. A red tunic drapes over top. His right arm is raised and grasps a white baton or scepter. His left arm and hand point down. The roses in the vines symbolize love, and they bloom in a canopy overhead. Roses and lilies, the sign of innocence, grow entwined together at his feet. Over his head is the lazy 8 symbol, and that's the symbol of infinity. The background is all brightness in yellow. As I mentioned, the place on the tree is Keter. The meaning of the place is unity and everything unmanifested. And the idea of not being manifested will come up again and again when we're dealing with Keter and Keter's aspect, the Magician. The Magician represents everything unmanifested. That means you can't touch it or see it. It is only potential. One way to look at Keter, the very top of the tree of life, we're used to seeing a picture like this with the structure, and we see the 10 Sephira all in a certain pattern with the Magician or Keter at the very top. This is how we represent it. In reality, it's a little bit different. It is more like this. Keter, or the Magician, is everything. This circle can expand infinitely. Within that circle are the 9 Sephira. We don't express it this way, though. We take the entirety that is Keter and we represent it as a single Sephira. The symbolic meaning of the Magician card really has to do with ideas. Keter, in a sense, hears completed music, visualizes how to grow, and knows how to build. All of this is the understanding of the Magician, but it's all potential. The Magician is not a builder. He's not a grower. The roses overhead symbolize that love is the very highest degree and nothing is above love. In fact, love may be the primal attractant force, the attractant forces, gravity, a form of human completion. The wand that he holds is like a lightning rod. It channels the highest energies from above to be active in our world. All the energies would be love based, which would be attractant based. The white tunic takes us a step further. This is purity. This is no selfishness and no evil motives. The red cloak, the magician is pure, yet also part of all reactions and all passions. The garden below is a mixture of purity and love intertwined. On the table is everything in potential, and that's symbolized by the magician having the swords, the cups, the wands, and the coins on his table. All four suits, symbolizing that everything is, in a sense, created by him, at least created in potential by him. Let's take a look at the magician in a more specific, a more practical light, and we'll look at what this card does not represent. And this is an interesting step because it may be tempting to see the magician as representing everything. If the magician card comes up, it may be tempting to think you have everything. Everything is coming your way. You are in control. It actually doesn't mean you have everything. The card does not represent reality. You have the potential to have everything, but you don't have anything right now. The card does not represent your reality. It might represent your future. The card does not represent actual stuff. The card represents, as we said earlier, ideas. A good business, a pleasant lifestyle, all that kind of things, or all that kind of thing can be generated through the ideas of the magician, but the magician doesn't provide anything tangible in your real life. In a sense, the magician has everything, but nothing is made real yet. One example would be if we were doing a vertical 3-card spread to look at a person's personality, and let's say that we drew 3 cards. The magician, the 8 of swords, and the page of pentacles. So you have these 3 cards here, and you could say a number of things about it. You could talk about the handling of money, the relative wealth. We could talk about power and how power can be bound sometimes and unable to function. We can talk about the magician who has all things possible. But if you look at these 3 cards, you may notice another theme going through them. And that theme is reluctance to participate fully in reality. It may be a card of a person who is living too much in their head. It may be a card of a person who thinks ideas equal actions. If we look at these 3 cards, we see the page of coins dreamily gazing as if lost in ideas and plans. We see the 8 of swords. We see somebody unable to move right now. They have the power, but they don't have the vision or the ability to move and use their power. At this point, they're inert. And finally, we have the magician. And we know that the magician is about things that will come later. The magician is not about stuff that's going to appear in your life right now. These three cards together, you can read good things into them. You can talk about the person's different aspects or future, but you might note that there's a trend here of non-action, of thinking, and of imagination. That's just to clarify the idea of what the magician is not, and that is, it is not stuff you can hold in your hand. To some extent, the magician may be about inaction. Now, we have to talk about each one of these cards has an alter ego. On the Tree of Life, reality is laid out in a way that's positive, simple, and easy to understand. On the Tree of Knowledge, all the same parts are there, but they're nuanced. And some of the extremes are shown, for better and for worse. The Tree of Life is something that it was believed that people should start with when they're young. It gives them an idea of society and humanity that will serve them while they're learning all these, as I said, nuances. The Tree of Life is a little bit different, and we're going to look at that right now. First of all, the Tree of Life is the template for all creation. Each one of these sephira is an archetype. Each card is an archetype. In the Tree of Life, the Bible talks about it, and essentially, God had said the Tree of Life and the other trees in the Garden of Eden would provide all the food, nourishment, shelter, and even medicine that they would need. God said to Eve, "You may eat from any tree, but do not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil." That's a paraphrase, but essentially those were, according to the Bible, God's words to Eve. The snake came, offered an apple to Eve, who ate it. She thought it was good, and she took some home for Adam. Adam was at first reluctant, but Eve quoted God out of context, and she said, "Well, God did say I may eat from any tree," which is true, except the next part of the sentence was, "except for the tree of knowledge." As we mentioned, the very top of the tree is Keter, represented by the magician. It's a form of unity, unmanifest reality. All things exist as dormant. There's love, matter, gravity, everything exists in this realm, but none of it is present and can be seen yet. In a sense, as we showed that picture, Keter is beyond our universe, but contains our universe. And to give a kind of a simplistic overview of some of the Kabbalistic thought behind this, in the very beginning, God created a dark place in order to experience it. In so doing, the divine awareness was shattered. Before that, infinity had a kind of consciousness. Through the first and second contraction, a place of darkness, relative darkness, was created, and the divine awareness was shattered. The divine soul of the infinite awareness was shattered into a million pieces. Each of us has a shard or a spark within us. Our evolution involves reuniting the shards back into one all-aware unity. The pathway involves seeing all others as an aspect of ourselves. Now that's very short, and I'm sure Jocelyn will think I've maybe missed one or two things, but that just sort of gives an overview. The magician is everything in suspension. In the first tree, all is possible. Everything is positive. This is not misleading to young minds. There's a reason why, according to legend, the second tree was not taught at first. Partly, it would be hard for them in their innocence to understand the complexity. They would have no reference. As I mentioned, the second tree is more nuanced, specific, and a development of the ideas that are learned in the first tree. We'll move now to the second tree. We're talking today about the magician. He is in the place of Keter on the tree of life. But the tarot by the tree system involves the two trees in the Bible. And each card on the tree of life is mirrored by its non-identical twin on the tree of knowledge. And in this case, the magician card has its other side revealed on the tree of knowledge as the hanged man. And we'll just look at this just very briefly. Today is about the magician, but we'll just mention the other side of the magician to keep in mind when we're dealing with the magician. The hangman, you can see by the halo around his head, he is great. But great men can be seen as bad guys depending on the society at the time. When we're looking at the magician card, we are looking at greatness. We are looking at the source of everything because he's figured it all out in his head. The magician would say, you have it all. It would go on to mention your own personal and heartfelt ideas are good. Trust them. That's what the magician says. If the magician is in your reading and part of your persona, you can rely on your heartfelt ideas. Acting now with passion and integrity will result in success. Acting now. The magician is a place of thought and ideas. To make these into anything involves action. Just want to look at something. My son Shane has been looking a little bit into AI, and it's really fascinating. It's not really like a search engine. I don't know that much about it. It's can not only dredge up ideas from the internet, it can also distill their meanings and come up with new relationships. I personally don't use AI, but most people or many people do, and I imagine it's everywhere. I would think people write essays with EI, notes, lectures, proposals. I would think anybody who does any of these things, or many people, after they're done, would run it through AI, and it would just give you new ideas, correct any errors, and possibly improve it. I know many people think that their own written work can be greatly improved by having input from AI, but at first people were looking for the signs of AI just to discourage that kind of like plagiarism. But now you can ask AI to write your story, your essay, your notes, your proposal, and do it in a way that doesn't look like AI. It's very confusing. It's very amazing. You can ask AI to do research for you, and Shane used AI to fully explore the Magician card. What came out was very involved, about 9 pages worth, and it divided it up into all kinds of subheadings, and it explored relationships, and it's very impressive. Not everything AI generates may be of use to you, because it's like a garden rake. It will comb the grass and it will pick up debris. And in amongst what AI picks up, there may be some sticks and stones that you really didn't want at first. I'll start now. Out of 9 pages, I've isolated a few things. I find this interesting because this isn't my words that I'm giving out. It's not my story. This is something that AI, independently of Jolston and myself, has combed the internet and come up with some of these. I think they're more than just ideas. They're almost arguments that AI has put together, and some minor revelations, perhaps. We'll see. Let's look at some of the excerpts from the AI exploration of the Magician. The Magician is the point where thought becomes word, vision becomes action, and unseen force moves into visible form. When this card appears, it means nothing is missing. What you need is present within or around you. The task is not to invent, but to align. When we're looking at the Magician as a primary card, some of the notes AI said, agency. You are not at the mercy of circumstances. You have a role to play. With the Magician card, it's difficult to make excuses. The Magician card suggests that all the raw materials are at your disposal. AI mentions intention. What matters now is how and why you act, not just what you want. And finally, presence. This is not a time for drifting or reacting. Deliberate, attuned action is required. And that's the other side of the Magician. It's a wonderful card. It's got all kinds of attributes, but it is not a card of action. It requires action to bring those ideas into life. Recognizing your position as a creator, whether you're starting a project, having a conversation, or making a decision, you are shaping something real. Under one of the categories called psychology, AI says the core meaning of the Magician internally is that it reflects a state of clarity, coherence, and readiness to act. And again, this is not action. This is readiness to act. It suggests that you are no longer in the fog. You know what is true for you, and now it is time to live accordingly. Again, we see the suggestion that the Magician is the start, and there is more to do to arrive at the finish. How the Magician might alter a reading is that this card marks the shift from insight to embodiment. This card ideally moves from ideas to reality. AI suggests that there are some risks of misreading the card. Risks of misreading the Magician. Projection, mistaking hope for alignment. Some people may make the mistaken reading of this card means I'll succeed no matter what. This interpretation projects desire onto the card without examining whether one's current actions are actually aligned. The Magician does not promise outcomes. It points to the opportunity for intentional action. If that alignment is missing, success may still be elusive. The clarification from AI says the magician invites you to examine how you're showing up, not just what you hope will happen. The applications for life areas. In your love life, the magician. In matters of love, the magician emphasizes directness, honesty, and conscious initiation. This is not the time to wait, guess, or play games. If you're wondering where things stand, the card invites you to speak from clarity and intention. The magician says, trust what is deep in your mind, because that is a creative source that you can develop. At work, AI suggests that the magician may say something like this: if you've been waiting for the right moment or sign, this is it. The magician transforms hesitation into confident motion. I've talked a little bit before about Nikola Tesla as an example of the hangman. Somebody who is great, and you again that halo around him of light and energy, but is not recognized in his time, and in fact may even be condemned in his time. AI says, Nikola Tesla, brilliant and visionary, but often ungrounded. Tesla reveals the danger of alignment without integration. Tesla's ideas outpaced his ability to anchor them in the world. Though his genius was genuine, he lacked the support and practical strategy to translate all he saw into shared form. His story reflects a magician whose connection to the higher realm was strong, but whose hand never fully reached the ground.
The interesting thing about him is that he saw the world differently.
Yes.
Like his vision was not our vision, and it's saying that he couldn't ground it. Well, no, because he saw things differently.
And he was taken advantage of, I think, as an innocent because of that. And finally, Aleister Crowley talks a little bit about the excessive nature of the magician. A symbol of the magician inflated by ego, Crowley used his knowledge to command attention, influence, and control. While deeply learned, his teachings were often wrapped in spectacle, and his identity became larger than his message. The current of power he tapped into was real, but frequently distorted by self-glorification. Lesson: when presence becomes performance and mastery becomes manipulation, the magician forgets he is a channel, not the source. Okay, I think now we'll take a look at any questions, Jocelyn.
We have a lot of comments and questions.
Oh, okay.
Ms. Simmons talks about the 22 paths that are traditionally attributed to the tarot readings.
This is a delicate place to go, and I've talked a lot about this. Some of the oldest renditions structures of the Tree of Life have different numbers of pathways. People had been searching for this correlation for the two biblical trees and how the tarot cards fit on them, but they weren't able to find it. Sometime during the search, somebody came up with the idea of the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, and the idea, why can't I make 22 pathways? And indeed you can, but they're not all 22 pathways. And sometimes there are 22 pathways with 2 pathways reaching to Malkuth. At other times, those 2 pathways are gone, but then they're transposed up over Dot, and that is still 22. There seems to be an insistence on 22 pathways without any importance as to where those pathways go. The only pathways we are concerned with that will benefit us and teach us and help us with tarot are the 9 pathways, the flaming sword, that zigzag path of creation. That's what we deal with. That's what we know is true. And the 22 pathways are not part of the system.
Immortal Coil saying a tarot reading from some 20-year-old indebted college kid or from a wise old man. I don't necessarily agree with our Judeo source zodiac, but it's not the cards, it's the reader who has insight.
Without a doubt. Of course, the cards are triggers for the person. And if you went to even the same tarot person or palm reader twice, you would get 2 different readings. As I've always said, the readings do not indicate the future, they indicate one of a million possible futures, and it gives you a chance to work towards that or to guard against that.
And the cards themselves are a story unto themselves.
Yes, they're all archetypes and they all tell that little story.
Which is why it's important to understand each card.
Yes, that's the first thing. We have to know what each card means.
Now, Bruce is voicing something we've heard before. Tell us about Jesus. Tell us how he says to stay away from tarot card readers, fortune tellers, and contacting demons.
Yeah, fortune tellers sure got lumped into a whole bunch of bad news with that one. In the tarot cards, there are all kinds of Christian symbology. The tarot cards come from a Jewish source, but then so does Christianity. One of the problems I think people see in the tarot cards is the devil card, and they think it's a Christian devil. It's not. It's a pre-Christian devil. It has to do with being devilish or being bedeviled. This is not a force at war with God. The devil in pre-Christian times was often more of a mischievous imp.
And the devil is, you say, being devilish, it's the ego.
It is,
It's
yeah.
our will to, it's because we want things.
It's self-imposed in a way, I think, is, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, is the magician the most powerful card?
No, not in our reality. The magician is ideas and potential. It would have no effect. That's the no part of the answer. The yes part of the answer is yes. He is the source of everything. And for that, there's got to be an aspect of power. I think these are both aspects of the same entity, and all of these are aspects of the entity. This describes the procession of the universal intelligence from a place of brightness to a place of darkness. Each sephra is an aspect of the magician. The magician gets, in a sense, less powerful as he moves down, but in another sense, the magician has no power since he exists in the realm of ideas.
Why were children not taught the tree of knowledge?
We'll go through this as we move through this, but basically comparing the similar cards on the 2 trees gives us a lesson. We know the magician has all the ideas. We know the hangman has all the ideas. We know the magician is recognized for it. We know that the hangman is persecuted for it. This is not taught to children because we don't want them to misinterpret the idea that every person who is not regarded highly for their ideas must be wise. We don't want that lesson to be learned first. We want people to use their intellect and be able to discern between good things and bad things. We don't want them to think that bad things always have good behind them. That's why the tree is taught first in its simplistic, positive essence. And we look at the nuances and the extremes on the second tree when a person has had enough life experience not to take everything on the second tree at face value.
Is the magician a good or bad card to get in a reading? Is he only about ideas and not reality?
Yes, he's only about ideas and not reality, although all of reality comes from his ideas. It's a wonderful card to get. All possibilities, all potential, no lacks. But it is only ideas. Ideas create order from chaos. So it is a wonderful card to get. It is a limited card because it requires one more step to make the ideas real.
Is the magician also the hanged man?
No, not really. Yes, sort of. The magician is an archetype that explains someone that has all the ideas and is, in a sense, highly regarded, in a sense, powerful because of it. This person is highly regarded. People would use his ideas. In fact, civilization might be elevated by this person's ideas. With the hangman, you have the same guy, the same ideas, the same potential for benefiting humanity, but for some reason, he's feared or distrusted, and people will not use the ideas. And like the previous question, maybe some people suspect there's something evil or satanic or dangerous to good people about it.
A channel of mine is asking, what would you say when the magician card came up as a life event, as an aspect of your psychology, as part of a reading regarding a romantic partner?
I would say that you have everything you need to succeed with this romance. If you turn to anything that has any artifice into it, any fakeness, you will not succeed. The magician is about the truth of your deepest beliefs. So the advice would be to share your ideas, be absolutely honest, because what you have inside you is everything that's needed. But don't be silly. Don't be a show off. Don't inflate or lie. This is a time for to be sort of bare about your feelings. Reveal yourself. The magician says there's nothing in your way. Trust what's inside you.
What is the best thing I can say about the magician?
The best thing you can say is you get the magician card, you have everything you need. You have all the ideas, and if you deeply feel these ideas, they are right. They can be active in your reality. Use your ideas to improve or produce. What it says is this is the time for action. But if you trust yourself, don't be swayed by other people, and don't act like you're looking in a mirror. Don't try to self-aggrandize. You will be successful.
What about the magician is magic?
Um, hmm.
it's not magic.
No, it's not magic, and I thought I had something jotted down for this. Okay. Um, Here's what I said. The magician is everything inside you, and its best aspect is something coming from nothing. The magician has everything that doesn't yet exist in reality, but from him all the greatness of reality can come. Something coming from nothing. And if you think about it, that's the essence of magic. Something coming from nothing. Poof, something appears. In that sense, the magician embodies magic. But magic is such a loaded term, and it has to very often do with spells and control over people and things active in our world, and that's not the magician. The magician is a term for a card that we've just talked the last little while. It's a complex card, but it doesn't have anything to do with what we would normally call magic. And I hope that was useful. We've taken a really hard look, close look at the magician card, the number 1 card. Tomorrow, or I mean next Wednesday, we'll be moving on into the second Sephira Hakma, and that will be the High Priestess. And we'll look at the High Priestess card and her other side, the Death card. Have a great day. Bye for now.